The vast Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly below. High above, a marvel of modern engineering soared. This was the Icarus, a state-of-the-art surveillance drone. Its mission was routine yet vital. It gathered data, its sensors keenly observing the world beneath. It flew silently, a ghost in the upper atmosphere. The drone represented the pinnacle of autonomous flight technology. Its operators, hundreds of miles away, watched its progress on their screens. They trusted its capabilities implicitly. It had never failed before. On this particular day, the sky was clear. The sun glinted off Icarus's wings. It was performing perfectly, transmitting a steady stream of information. Then, without warning, the transmission ceased. One moment, there was data. The next, only static. The link was severed. The drone, worth millions, had simply vanished from their monitors. The suddenness of it was alarming. No distress signal was sent. No indication of malfunction was recorded. Just an abrupt, inexplicable silence descended. The control room buzzed with urgent, hushed voices. Checks were run, systems were rebooted, backup communication channels were attempted again and again, but there was no response. Icarus was gone. The news of Icarus's disappearance triggered an immediate response. Search and rescue operations were launched. Ships and aircraft were dispatched to the last known coordinates. They scoured the endless surface of the Pacific. The search area was immense, a daunting prospect for even the most advanced teams. They hoped to find wreckage, a telltale oil slick, or perhaps the drone's emergency beacon if it had activated. The ocean, however, offered no clues. It remained stubbornly silent, its surface reflecting the sky, betraying nothing of what lay beneath its waves. The search teams worked tirelessly day and night. Days turned into weeks. The hope of finding Icarus, or any trace of it, began to dwindle. The vastness of the ocean seemed to mock their efforts. Experts analyzed the final data packets received before the blackout. They looked for any anomaly, any hint of trouble, but the drone had been operating normally. Its systems were all green. This lack of information only deepened the mystery. Eventually, with no wreckage found and no definitive explanation, Icarus was officially declared lost. The ocean kept its secret, and life continued. Months passed. The memory of Icarus began to fade into the archives. Then, one ordinary Tuesday morning, something extraordinary happened. In the very same control room where Icarus's signal had abruptly died, a new signal flickered into life. It was faint at first, almost dismissed as a system error, but it persisted, growing stronger. Technicians scrambled, their faces a mixture of confusion and disbelief. The incoming data stream was unmistakable. It was encrypted with Icarus's unique signature. The drone was back online. The initial reaction was stunned silence, then a flurry of activity. Could it be true after all this time? The system diagnostics confirmed it. This was not a ghost signal or a delayed transmission. Icarus, the drone presumed lost to the depths of the Pacific, was somehow transmitting again. The engineers and intelligence officers gathered around the monitors. Their expressions were a blend of excitement and profound unease. The telemetry data began to stream in, but it was confusing. The drone was clearly not in the Pacific Ocean. With the telemetry data proving unhelpful for location, the team activated Icarus's onboard cameras. They held their breath. The first images that flickered onto the main screen were disorienting. It was dark, very dark. The drone's low-light optics struggled initially, then adjusted. What slowly resolved was not the crushing black of the deep sea nor the open sky. Instead, the camera revealed a confined space, walls of some kind, close and oppressive. Metallic surfaces glinted faintly in the dim light cast by the drone's own minimal illumination systems. The view was restricted. The drone seemed to be on the ground, or at least on a flat surface. It panned its camera slowly, cautiously. The images showed pipes running along the walls. Strange, old-fashioned conduits and junction boxes were visible. Dust lay thick on every surface, undisturbed for what looked like a very long time. There was no sign of water damage, no indication of the violent end it was presumed to have met. This was not a wreck. This was something else entirely. Section 5. Concrete coffin, a relic of a bygone war. As Icarus continued its silent broadcast, experts were called in. Historians, engineers, and intelligence analysts pored over the incoming visuals. The architectural style, the visible technology, the very atmosphere of the place began to point towards a chilling conclusion. The pipes, the heavy-duty wiring, the stark functionality, it all spoke of a specific era, an era of fear, of paranoia, of mutually assured destruction. The consensus grew rapidly. Icarus was inside a Cold War bunker, a relic from a time when the world stood on the brink. These bunkers were built in secret. They were designed to withstand unimaginable forces. Many were scattered in remote locations, their entrances concealed, their existence known only to a select few. They were concrete coffins, intended to protect key personnel or vital assets in the event of a nuclear holocaust. The fact that Icarus was inside one was astounding. These structures were meant to be impenetrable, sealed against the outside world for decades, if necessary. How had a drone, lost at sea, breached such a fortress? The historical significance was immense. Section 6 echoes from the cold inside the forgotten fortress. The drone, Icarus, began to move, or rather it was moved. Its internal gyroscopes registered slight, almost imperceptible shifts in orientation, then a slow, steady traversal across the floor. Its camera panned, revealing more of its strange prison. The bunker was a time capsule. Desks stood coated in decades of dust, chairs askew as if abandoned in a hurry. On one desk, a Bakelite telephone sat, its rotary dial frozen mid-number. Old paper files, yellowed and brittle, were stacked neatly, their contents a mystery. It was a scene of sudden departure, frozen in time. The drone's light illuminated walls adorned with faded maps. Some showed strategic locations marked with Cyrillic script. This suggested a Soviet origin, a chilling reminder of past enmities. Consoles with bulky switches and analog dials lined one wall. Their screens were dark, lifeless. Yet the air of latent power remained. This place was built for a purpose, a grim purpose. It was designed to function even when the world outside had ceased to exist. Section 7, The Impossible Journey. Questions of entry and power. The primary question that tormented the analysts was simple. How? How did Icarus, an aerial drone lost over the Pacific Ocean, end up deep inside a sealed Cold War bunker, seemingly on another continent? There were no visible entry points in the footage, no broken walls, no forced hatches. The bunker appeared to be as secure and untouched as the day it was decommissioned, or perhaps abandoned. The drone itself showed no signs of damage from a crash, nor any indication of having been submerged in salt water for months. Its casing was pristine, albeit dusty. Then there was the matter of power. Icarus's batteries were designed for long flight, but not for months of inactivity, followed by a sudden revival and sustained transmission. The signal was strong, indicating a full or near full charge. Had it been found and recharged? If so, by whom and for what purpose? The bunker itself showed no signs of active power. The lights were off, the consoles dark, so where was the drone drawing its energy from? Section 8, A Solitary Sentinel, the drone's eerie exploration. As Icarus continued its methodical exploration of the bunker, one fact became increasingly, unsettlingly clear. There was no sign of human life, or any life for that matter. The dust lay undisturbed, save for the faint tracks the drone itself was now presumably making. There were no footprints, no recently moved objects, no indication of current or even recent human presence. The bunker was a silent, empty shell, a monument to a conflict that had, thankfully, remained cold. Yet the drone moved with purpose. Its cameras swept across empty barracks with neatly made bunks still awaiting occupants who never came, or who had long since departed. It peered into kitchens where preserved foodstuffs in tins and jars lined the shelves, untouched. It navigated through communication centers where headsets lay on consoles as if momentarily set aside. The stillness was absolute. If someone had brought the drone here, they had left no trace of their passage. They had vanished as completely as Icarus itself once had. This absence of life was perhaps more eerie than finding inhabitants would have been. The drone seemed to be acting autonomously, following a pre-programmed route, but who could have programmed it with the layout of this forgotten bunker? Section 9, The Unseen Hand, A New Purpose Revealed. The drone, Icarus, eventually came to a halt. It stopped before a larger, more complex console than others it had passed. This console, unlike the others, showed faint signs of activity. A single, small indicator light glowed with a soft, green luminescence. It was an anomaly in this otherwise dormant environment. The drone's camera focused intently on the console's main screen, which was dark. Then, with a barely audible click, the screen flickered to life. It did not display old Cold War data. Instead, it showed lines of modern code scrolling rapidly. The engineers in the control room watched, utterly bewildered. This code was not part of Icarus's original programming. It was new, sophisticated, and its purpose was not immediately clear. The drone remained still, its camera fixed on the screen as if it were receiving instructions. Then the scrolling code stopped. A new directive appeared, written in stark, simple English. Phase 2 initiated. New objective: observe, learn, integrate, await further instructions. The team stared in disbelief.